Scissors University. I'm Tom, the Dean of Education. This class will now be on tension settings, and this will be adjustment A, and it's going to be on the click and ratchet tension systems, which has a very specific setting. This is a scissor here that has a click or ratchet system on it. When you turn it, you can actually feel the progressive action of that because of the clicking. It's very secure. But before I start to do my adjustment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean my scissor first. If you're going to be adjusting the scissors, there's no reason not to take a few moments and just clean the scissor. I'm going to put a few drops of oil on here, and I like to put it on the pivot area. First, it's going to push any little hairs that are underneath this pivot area here out so that I can take a chamois and wipe them off. Making sure it's nice and clean. Yeah, there's a little hair right there. We'll get rid of that. Anything that's underneath the pivot area can easily interfere with your adjustment. So it's always best to start off with a clean scissor. Now, one of the things that we do too, when I take my chamois, I place that chamois on the blade with enough pressure that I'm allowing that to fit right into the hollowed area and then pushing up against the outside of the blade. And I don't drag my chamois down the length of the blade. I pull my scissor through the chamois. If I apply enough pressure on here, enough so I'm not cutting the cloth, I can actually remove any micro burrs off of that blade. And when I do that, it really extends the life of the blade and gives it a smooth, clean closure when you're cutting. And it doesn't hurt to do that. As well as polish the base of the scissor. This area in here is crescent shaped. All of these things here add up to making a scissor more precise and feeling really smooth. Now, when I go to adjust the scissor, I would normally hold the scissor with the tension nut facing me. For the purpose of the classroom, I want to turn the scissor around so that you can be watching it as if you were doing it. I'm going to hold it straight up to 12 o'clock. I'm going to bring the opposing blade over, which has the finger rest on it, and I'm holding it by the thumb ring. And what I would like to do when I release this gently, I would like this blade to balance where it is now. I know that this is going to be really loose, but it's nice to see the progression as I go to adjust it. So this is quite loose, so I'm going to turn this on this. I turned it quite a bit because I loosened it up a lot. So I turned it maybe 5 or 6 good clicks. Still quite loose. 4 or 5 more. Now when I release it, you're going to see the blade start to push against the other side. That is tension, but we want to have a stronger, more secure tension on here, so I'm going to do a couple more clicks. Now here, see how this is balanced right here at 9 o'clock? Bingo, it's what we're looking for. Now, if I was too aggressive, 2 or 3 clicks too tight, when I do a little downward stroke on this scissor, I would like the blade to drop to the 10. But if it doesn't move, I've over-tightened, and this is a nice visual effect to let me know whether or not my tension is going to be correct. So I'm going to give it a little downward stroke. Notice it's not dropping any further than this strong 10 o'clock position. What's nice about that, there's a visual aid here. It's right where the sharpness starts on both of these blades. This makes a huge difference because now once it starts to glide here, the only contact point is where it touches on each blade. So as I'm closing this down, the only thing that touches is where the blades cross. Everything else is open space. Now, when it's closed here like this all the way down, this is now like praying hands, and the tips are the only thing touching. If I loosen the tension up just 1 or 2 clicks, the first thing that comes apart is the tip. So when you're point cutting, you might first feel the scissor as it gets loose. When you point cut, it's not going to grab the hair the way you expected it. It could even pinch the hair, or it could push the hair off. So consequently, having correct tension really improves performance. So again, now this happens to be right here at the proper setting. Little downward stroke, doesn't drop any more than 10 to the 10 o'clock position. What I like about that, this is now going to have such a smooth, clean closure. as I close that down, and I really like how that feels. If I check the wobble in the scissor, this is the natural wobble of the scissor. Your blades are not flat like this, they actually have an arc in here. And that's why they cut hair. There's an arc on each blade. So as you're closing down, this wobble should be just right. If I loosen this up just 2 small clicks, the wobble on that scissor has doubled. If I did 2 more clicks, I've doubled the amount of wobble in the scissor again. For each increment that this gets loose, I'm going to increase the stress in my hand to compensate. I know how the scissor should feel. So if it doesn't feel right when I'm using it, if I increase the stress, I can force the scissor to cut. That's what wears you and the scissor out. So having the correct tension. Now let's see where that blade drops now. So if I test it now and see how the tension is, straight up, straight across, and here I am at 9. See that? Majority of people using a scissor of this caliber with that type of tension system on, they would put it there. The scissor is going to cut hair, but it's not going to cut the hair very well. There's an inappropriate amount of tension on the scissor, and what happens is you end up putting a lot of pressure on you and the scissor to force it to cut. So setting it with the proper adjustment is not real complex. Now, there are more than one type of tension setups. This happens to be one that you can adjust with your fingers. Very popular. I really consider it to be one of the better type of systems. But there's other ones, and some folks do not like to have that bump on here, that nut. So they get a recessed system which has a low profile, and you would test it the same way. So now here, straight up, straight across, downward stroke, it still has the same tension setting. Now sometimes, if this scissor was to give you a hard time as far as being able to get the correct tension setting on it, sometimes when we adjust these tension systems, what can happen is that little plate that's underneath here, I'm going to show it to you. These threads are very fine, so it takes a couple of turns to get it out. Okay, now that it's out, in this case it dropped out. If it didn't, then you could go in and with a small ink pen or a pointed object, you could reach in and actually pull it out of this little inverted area. On here there is a little bump. This bump needs to be facing upward. If it's facing upward, it has contact with these teeth. That's why they call it a click or a ratchet system. It makes for a nice secure tension system. However, if this was to get real flat, then this bump might not have the same amount of pressure against those teeth, making it a little bit more difficult. This is not real complex. You could take a small pair of pliers like this, bend this slightly upward, just a small amount, maybe a 1/64 of an inch up. That's about it. Then just put it back together. And the full procedure of disassembling the scissor is also seen on one of our videos in the classroom, which would be the assembly and cleaning. Now I'm just going to drop that on there, making sure it's nice and flat and secure and on the inside. Take my little nut here and put it back on. Turning it as much as I can with my fingers, then I'll pick up the key. When you have this type of a system, the companies need to provide you with a key. I can't believe that companies provide scissors without the tools to adjust them. Okay, so here we are. It's very easy to adjust. Let's show you. Straight up, straight across. I want it to balance pretty much in this position here. And if I give it a downward stroke, drops to that 10, absolutely perfect. Now when I close that scissor down, I'm not applying any thumb pressure. It's smooth from the pivot all the way down to the tip. I really like how that scissor is cutting. And what I do know about this type of a tension system, it's very secure. It holds very well. It should not be loosening up during the day. And the only reason that we can find a reason for that to be loosening up, it would be if you didn't set it correctly to begin with. And the other one would be if you're a person that puts lots of thumb on the inside like this, and you pull it back and forth, and you're flexing your thumb as you cut, you're rocking your scissor back and forth, and you cause this to loosen up, and that would certainly be an issue. We cover all of that on upper hand control and another class on thumb pressure. Be sure to go to those classrooms because those will assist you. Now, if you get into the habit of adjusting your scissors, or at least checking them every day before you start your work schedule, you're going to have scissors that work really well, right up to the point of needing service, and you're not going to have fluctuations of bending, pinching, pulling, and pushing on the hair as you're cutting. Why? Because scissors that are adjusted properly don't encourage people to use too much thumb pressure or lose their upper hand control. Well, thank you for your time sitting through this class. I hope there was good information here. If you have any questions or comments, you're always welcome to let us know how you feel about our classes, and we'll be happy to respond. Thank you, and we'll see you in the very next class.